Hello everyone, and welcome to a belated Whimsy Wednesday. My apologies for the later video this week. I ended up with a 3-day migraine thanks to Mother Nature. We kind of had a front come through, but not really any storms, just some pop-ups here and there. But my head was definitely saying there was something going on weather-wise. But now it's mostly taken care of. Thank you, migraine meds. And we can get on with today's topic, or this week's topic. I wanted to talk about the importance of underclothes. And for this discussion, that's going to include your chemise or your shift, your drawers, your petticoats, and a little bit about your stays or your corset as well. That'll come towards the end. Now you might notice that I'm glancing down because I actually took notes this time around. I don't usually do that. I usually just talk off the top of my head. So this will be interesting to see how well I stick to my notes that I have written here. Now, first of all, this is not going to be another talk about which cuts, fits, and closures are correct for a particular era. There are plenty of videos and blogs out there that cover those topics. This is going to be a little bit different. I keep telling little Miss Clara she needs to stay down. I want to talk about these layers as basically being your second skin and how to make the most of these layers in a good way. She keeps looking up here. This is not good. You're staying down today. All right. This is basically what it comes down to me. Your chemise and your drawers are basically a second skin. They are your protection against the world when it gets really, really hot or really, really cold at events. Also the other elements that are out there. All right, so let's start with the chemise. And this is dual purpose, not just because this is the garment that is truly wrapped around your body, but also because this is the garment that prompted me this last weekend to move this topic further up my to-do list. It's been on the list for a while, but it wasn't very important until a conversation this past weekend. We were doing our swatch exchange. We were basically building swatch books and discussing different fabrics that are out there. And a friend of mine mentioned a chemise experience that she had. She had purchased a chemise from a reputable merchant, my apologies, and it was one that she particularly liked because the cut was very comfortable for her. We're going to get to cut in a minute. She wore this particular chemise several times until she overheated at an event. She actually got sick with heat exhaustion, which we all know is a horrible experience. This can completely ruin not just that event, but let's be real, future events as well. You get worried about heat exhaustion or the effects of it from then on. So what she discovered really made me sad. She ended up fiber testing her chemise, and it turned out it wasn't 100% cotton. This was actually a poly cotton blend, and from the sounds of it, it was quite a lot of poly. Calling it poly cotton might be forgiving. So what happened during the event and when she overheated, that chemise, the poly aspect, was trapping all of her body heat in on herself. And it's not even like it's the outer garment trapping it in. This was underneath her corset or her stays, trapping all that heat at her core. So honestly, it doesn't surprise me that she ended up with a heat situation. Luckily, she will be fine. She is fine, and she's making the most of the situation because she's going to take the chemise apart and pattern it with a fabric that's safe. So in terms of safe fabrics, we're looking at 100% cotton, 100% linen. Honestly, I can't document wool. I have never looked into that, but I feel that wool would even be safer than a polyester. Personally, I've worn cotton for, well, over 2 decades, pushing 3 decades at this point, and only recently made the change into linen. And I'm really telling myself, why didn't I do this earlier? asking myself why didn't I do this earlier? I don't even remember what triggered me to buy a bunch of linen, but I'm on a linen kick. And I gotta say, a linen chemise is just one huge step even better than the cotton chemise. The cotton lets your skin breathe. Even under a good pair of stays, you're still breathing under there. Change to linen, and you're not only breathing, but it's as if the material wicks the moisture away from your body. So normally, I'm a sweater. It's not necessarily the temperature, but you put me out in the sun, and the switch goes on, and my body goes defend, defend, sweat, sweat, sweat. So, you know, the traditional areas under here, the breast area, this T area, sweat, sweat, sweat. And normally, when I would get home from an event, get my dress off, my chemise would be bunched up here and bunched up through here and damp and all wrinkled and crunched in on itself from sweating throughout the day. With the linen, it just fell away from my body, very relaxed, and wasn't damp at all. I was really, really impressed. Now, this was a mild weather day, a little warm, very, very sunny. And like I said, for me, sun is the big thing. So I'm going to continue to experiment with the linen and see how different it feels compared to the cotton as we push into the 90-degree days this year. Obviously didn't get to play around with other people last year in clothes. So let's go back to fit now that we've talked about our materials. Now, fit is going to be different for every single one of us. Let's be real, we all have different bodies. Some of us are leaner, some of us are fluffier, some of us hold our fluff in different places. Some of us are definitely more texture sensitive than others. I would consider myself in that category. So for me, I prefer a fit that doesn't shift around. I like things to stay where they are. So like, I don't want things falling off my shoulders. I also want an arm side that's fairly high so I can move my arms without lifting the whole chemise once it's in the stays. Also, I want a sleeve that is not going to feel tight, but at the same time, not going to bunch up. Bunching up is a big uncomfortability for me, especially through the arms. So what I end up wearing, let's see, here's one that's well worn, okay? This is one of my cotton chemises. Yep, quite worn. So this sits wide on the neckline, all right? It's a yoke, okay? And most of my gathering is here between my breasts because I like that extra there. It lets it fall over my breasts evenly. And actually, that extra right over top of my incision areas is a comfort for me. I have minimal gathering on the sides here. So there's minimal gathering falling on the sides under my arms. My sleeves are quite short. All right. They fit comfortably around my flabby arms. Thank you, genetics. I can actually trace those back. And the shortness means that there's going to be minimal possibility of scrunching up, which is definitely an option for my larger arms. It just kind of likes to ride up underneath the sleeves sometimes. So with it short like this, I don't seem to have that problem. I do have additional fullness at the center back, but not a lot. I'm realizing I should have measured the width. Oh, I'm realizing this is the one that I accidentally dyed pink in the laundry. So this is I'm going to say this started out as two 36-inch widths. Okay, it's less than that right now. It's gone through several seasons, and I bet there's some shrinkage happening there. Hello, my dear. Are you interrupting before we move on to drawers? You need to hop down. Please. And thank you. All right. So I think that covers, let me make sure, everything that I wanted to say about the chemise. Oh, no, it isn't. Seams. You know how I said some of us are more sensitive to texture? This will include coarse seams. If you're someone that is more sensitive to a seam, make sure you fill your seams over. Trim as much bulk away as possible, fold them over, and whip stitch them down. That'll reduce the coarseness, and it'll also reduce any kind of fraying from washing over the years and make that more comfortable. I do that on my side seams and my arm size. I do find that it improves notably. Okay, excuse me, goodness. All right, with that, we'll move on to drawers. All right, so here's the funny thing. I just wore one of this batch of drawers. Do you think I can figure out where I hung them to dry? Yes, I machine wash, line dry. No idea where I hung them. Nope, no idea. So I got out another pair. And I know that they are the pairs that I like because I've labeled them all. Let's show you the right side. So they all have different color A's. This is the ones that I like. This came about because there's just so many pairs of drawers you can have in a single house with multiple people, multiple wardrobes, multiple eras. So different colors and different letters indicate who they are and what era they're supposed to go with. So, okay. Oh, one of my notes. Yes. So I've got to confess, there are many modern situations where I really wish I had drawers on. Instead of, like, you know, modern underwear. You might go, why? Well, you know, cross-country journey, public bathrooms, I gotta say, I'd rather have like a nice drawer protective layer going on, if need be. Anyway, all right. Yeah, I was supposed to do a little warning to say I might get onto some sensitive topics in this video. I need to remember to go put that back in the description when I upload this. Okay. So, the other confession. I've done this for, gosh, I can't believe we're in the 3rd decade here. Back when I started, I had off-the-rack drawers. And, yeah, I had the chafing. I'm pretty sure I remember blistering. I know I had some bleeding going on and some scabbing on my legs. This is basically from, you know, the rub that happens. And it can be painful. It's like you just don't want to move, painful. And it can really ruin an event, let's be honest. All right? So, you know what? I'm realizing I need to pause and back up because we have several viewers who are not costumers and might not know what I'm talking about drawers. So, drawers. When I'm talking about 19th century drawers, these are basically kind of pant length items, all right? Not pant length, pant-like items of various lengths depending on where you are arrow-wise. And they are open or split through the crotch area, okay? What seam does exist is that long inseam, okay? This is a complete seam. The seam that is open is the inseam of the crotch area, front and back, okay? So I hope that helps those of you who don't necessarily wear these understand basically what they are and what we're talking about here. So when it comes to fit, one of two things generally happens. Either this seam, this opening here, okay, is going to be too loose or too tight. is one of the big things. There's a couple other factors. If it's too loose, the opening's going to hang too low, and that's going to leave your bare thighs rubbing against each other. And your bare thighs will rub, other areas might rub as well, and that's where you're going to create your chafing or your rashing. If it's too tight, you're actually going to be rubbing fabric against sensitive skin. And initially it might be dry fabric, but the reality is as you sweat during the day, you're eventually going to have damp fabric rubbing against sensitive skin, and again, you're going to have chafing or rash. Ouch, in either case, right? So, okay, the reality is if you're buying off the rack, or if you're using a blanket pattern of a single size, like even small, medium, large, or 10, 11, 12, very few of us are exactly those numbers. So the chances are, off the rack, off a pattern, you're going to have one of these two things happening. You're going to either have too tight or too loose through the crotch area. Add to that the positioning of gathering and some other depth issues. I truly believe, and this is after years of wearing awful drawers, okay drawers, miserable drawers, that a custom draping, custom pattern is by far going to give you better results. I prefer Elizabeth Clark's directions, and I will include those in the directions in the information below, both on YouTube and on the blog, so that you can reach those. This type of directions will encourage you to take your own measurements and then draft from there. But I don't want you to stop there. I want you to draft a pair, and then I want you to test them. And I'm not just going about this lightly. I want you to push them and push them. All right, so I wrote this out as notes. Basically, I want you to do kind of a yoga or an exercise routine, a little bit of the two, do some dancing. I want you to literally bend over, touch your toes. I want you to sit in something that's a regular chair, sit on your couch, get down, sit on the floor, get up and down a few times, do some crunches, do some knee lifts. Yeah, that's my attempt at a knee lift on camera. Do a dance routine, okay? Pick up your toddler, pick up your cat, do some things around the house. Really, really test these. Make sure they're comfortable. If you're sitting and they're tight through the back, consider more length, or consider adding some of the gathering towards the back. If when you sit, they pinch in at your stomach, loosen the waistband a little, or give yourself a little more depth in the stomach area. Your drawers should not be overly tight anywhere. They absolutely should not be pinching anywhere. At the same time, you don't want too much bulk anywhere either. They should not be tight around your thighs. Your drawers need to move comfortably with you. Like I said, second skin. At the same time, again, not too much bulk, okay? So my drawers, stay down there, are, let me find the widest spot. I can never remember offhand. I always have to check my notes. I may have squeezed this out of 36. May have. Over. Over. I don't think I've worn this pair as often, but this feels like it might be a, yeah, this might be a 36. So basically 2 yards of 36 inch is probably what I used, plus the waistband. Now, let's double check my notes. Okay. I said waistband. And it says, before I move on from drawers, I want to talk about the evils of the waistband. My apologies, not the evils of the waistband, but the evils of the drawstring. Okay? So you'll notice I set everything into waistbands. There's a reason. I firmly believe waistbands are the way to go, even with having a body that adjusts regularly, daily, weekly, different sizes, waistbands, not drawstrings. There's 3 reasons. One is health, one is the look, and one is just flat out PETA. You can look up PETA if you need to. All right, let's start with the look. The reality of how a drawstring works kind of comes down to the math. Any drawstring is going to be a double layer of the fabric that you're using and the full circumference or width of your drawers or your petticoats, whichever you're putting a drawstring in. So when you scrunch all of that in, you are putting that much fabric at your waist. Now think about this. We want our waist to look fairly small, most of us, right? And we're putting all this extra bulk at our waists, so that just doesn't work. If you set the fabric onto a waistband, it puts the bulk at the bottom of the waistband or even below the waistband if you're gauging or pleating. This means the waistband will sit at your waist and the bulk will sit just below your waist. See how that works? That helps. All right, health-wise. This also goes along with all of that bulk at your waist, especially if you're talking drawers. If you're going to do a drawstring around your waist underneath your corset or stays, that means as you're drawing it in, it's pulling against your skin into those tight gathers, and then you're putting your corset over that. I really have concerns about what that can do to your skin. I've seen several friends end up with kind of like welts there, and I myself have had some major irritation there in the past. So 2 reasons. Reason number 3, just it's a pain in the neck to restring a broken waistband. Story time. So years and years and years, decades ago, when I was doing the Yuletide program as Mrs. Williams, we were booked, busy. So we would have one tour exiting out the back as we would have another tour approaching from the front. And so we were in the midst of this transition, and I'm saying goodbye to this group, and I step back and turn to say hello, walk over to say hello to this group, and as I'm doing that, thunk, my cage fell to the floor. In this case, it was one of those covered cages with a drawstring. This was very early in my living history time as a young adult, and yeah, cage fell right to the floor. Now, if it had been a waistband, a couple pins, pull the thing back up, pin, all good to go. Given that you had to redo this drawstring, this wasn't happening anytime quickly. I had to actually pull the whole thing off, tuck it behind something, and go greet the next tour. So that was the very last time I wore a drawstring waistband. And I don't regret the change at all. I think a waistband that's a true waistband is far better than a drawstring. Pause for a drink. Okay, back to the stories. So yes, that was the very last time I wore a drawstring waistband. I don't have a whole lot else to say about petticoats. Let me switch this around. In terms of flexibility, I can tell you there is something that I have been doing. This is inside out. I've been combining a concept from 18th century with 19th century, and rather than tie part, I actually have 2 openings here on my petticoats. So my petticoats open on the sides, and each one has 2 sets of buttons. This is purely because of what my abdomen does, and this allows me to change about 3 inches in a single day. This has been a huge help. Huge help. So I enjoy that comfort. I don't know why this is inside out. Let's see what the notes say. All right. Oh, that's right, sheets. Okay. So I've been noticing on different groups, there's more and more discussion about using sheets for underpinnings. While I totally get the economy of this, you could go to Goodwill or you go to yard sales, pick up sheets, and turn them into whatever. When it comes to petticoats and other undergarments, please keep in mind the weight as well as the fiber. So you're going to make sure that it's cotton or linen. Pay attention to the weight, because I made this mistake. My very first 1860s outings, I thought I was being so smart. Here I am, college student, no budget. I was going to turn sheets into petticoats and stuff, and I tried. Okay, I did. I think I ended up with a couple queen-size skirts, queen-size sheets around my waist. The weight was incredible, okay? Even though they were cotton, the weight was immense. I honestly don't know that I've ever worn that much weight on my waist, even since. The reality is we strive for this thread count and this durability in sheets, which creates weight and density that didn't necessarily exist in original petticoats. So when you're looking for the closest petticoat materials, you're going to be looking for stuff like, but the batiste, poplin, heavier lawn, has a nice good body, and then like box stores, premium muslin, the box craft stores, you know what I'm saying. If you're going to go with sheets because of economy, just be careful and double check the weight. You don't necessarily notice it when you first put it on, but 24, 48 hours later, your body's going to feel it. So just be careful of that. I would highly recommend, instead of using them for your undergarments, use them for testing a pattern or draping a toile, that sort of thing. Alrighty, so on to corsets. Now, there are plenty of posts and blogs out there again that talk about the importance of a well-fitting corset, and stays, of course. So I'm not going to go back over any of that, other than to say, please do not wear a corset or stays that hurts you. Please pick something, have something made that's going to fit you. In lieu of all of that other stuff, I'm going to offer you a story on why I do not like the thinner boning. Okay? So, once upon a time, it was a beautiful fall evening, and the winds whispered through the trees as about 500 people gathered around for a evening performance of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Alright, this was complete with live horses, sword fights, and period dancing. And it was in the middle of that period dancing, all those figures that I balanced left, I balanced right, I went to turn, and snap. I broke one of the stay bones in the back of my corset. And I can tell you, it was the middle of that right-hand side, okay, right about waist height. So I had a broken bone in the back of my stays, and I had an entire dance and performance to finish, which I did. As I did, I can tell you my back simultaneously felt hot and cold as it hurt. The performance included some fleeing in fear of the horsemen and some crouching down, I can tell you I did not crouch down as well as I should have, but the expressions of pain on my face may have been a little amplified that night. So the performance came to an end. Everyone's applauding. We exit the stage area into our town hall building, where I was finally able to take my clothes off, down to my stays and my chemise. And that's when we discovered that from about my waist down, my chemise was just run with blood. And the stay had completely broken, and spent the rest of the evening poking into my back. So that is the last time I used the thinner boning. When I talk about thinner boning, I do not mean, let me get these apart here. I do not mean a comparison of width, all right? So this is width, okay? And in comparison, see if I can do this so you can see, this is the difference in thickness. I hope you can see those. So this is the better one. This is what I do use. This is pressure. This is pressure. This is no pressure, honestly. I could probably bend this in half and snap this in my hands. Most people use this. That is their prerogative. I understand that what happened to me was probably unusual, but I am actually afraid to use these. I did end up buying some, thinking it might just work if I doubled them up. I ended up not using them. I just can't do it. So that is my story, and I will wait and order these instead. I order from Farthingales, if you're wondering. The vast majority of my boning comes from Farthingales. These are the little 4 inches that I had bought, and you can see there's a lot of flex going on in there. So that is my corset story. Take it for what you wish. All right. So there's my. Thank you for listening to my take on the importance of underclothes. I hope that you take a couple things away from this. First, being the importance of natural fibers, whether you're talking cotton or linen. And second, the importance of fit specifically for you and how to be comfortable in your underclothes, whether you're talking your chemise or your drawers, your petticoats, or even your corset. All right, thank you all for joining this week. We will see you next week with a topic yet to be determined. Bye-bye, all.